So today we got a 2004 Dodge 1500 with a 4.7 in it. We're going to be putting a water pump and a power steering pump, but I'm going to make two videos for that. So I'm going to start with the water pump, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. So we're going to start by removing all this excess junk in the way. Coolant reservoir, washer fluid. Coolant reservoir, you just got one bolt there, and the washer reservoir should just pull right up. Just give her a little tug there and she pops right off. Set that to the side. Don't lose your bolt. And then this guy, you can unplug those two little plugs here. This one and this one here. Now you can leave that attached, and you can pull that tank out with this shroud, which we're going to take off here in a minute. But we got to loosen up the fan first, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you need for this is a air hammer and a fan clutch tool. Works real nice. Show you how to use that. Put her on the fan. Put her on there like that. And give her a little tap. She breaks her loose. Pull that out of there. And now you can just spin the whole thing off like that. Makes her nice and easy. So to take the shroud out, just got to take out this bolt right there. And right there. And then you're just going to pull up, and at the same time you're going to want to spin this out and hold it so it does not hit the radiator, and hold this fan and the shroud at the same time and pick them out at the same time. It's kind of hard to hold the camera at the same time, but I'll show you what happens next. I also forgot to mention before I set the phone down, these two power steering hoses, there's a clip that goes on the bottom of this harness, or on the bottom of the shroud, that goes in this hole, so you might want to take that out before you do that. Another thing is on this pump, you're going to want to either plug off that before you take it out, or just quickly do it and set it up like I have it there. I didn't have a plug, so that's what I did there. And before you take the belt off, either take a mental picture of how the belt is routed, or draw a little picture or something, and then so you know how to put it on later, so you're not struggling. Okay, I always start by pulling that pulley off because it gives you something nice to hold it with. You don't have to, but trust me, it's a whole lot easier. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a puller like this. They come in all different sizes. This one's a snap-on one. Works pretty good. What it does is, let me get a little better light on here. What it does, this groove here goes in, just slips on like that, and you can turn the screw down. I'll get you a better picture in a second. It just goes in like that. You see how it's between the pump and the puller. Then you put an inch wrench on here and a 9/6 or a half-inch wrench on here, and you just pull it, and it should slide that pulley right out, hopefully without breaking it. So what I like to do is I like to take my inch wrench, and I like to jam it up against the frame there, since it's a nice long wrench. I take my ratcheting wrench, stick it on here, and just keep wrenching away. Eventually it'll start popping and coming off. This one start breaking loose already. I can feel it getting a little looser, and you just keep going until it's off. Another thing to look at is before you start wrenching this, I forgot to mention, check and see how far, look down the line to see where your belts are sitting, because it's going to make a big difference when you put it back on where this is sitting on the shaft, because it can go further or longer. So when you're looking at that, you got to measure it up with the alternator or something. Take an eyeball so your belt doesn't wear weird. And there you have it. You get the pulley off. And you also want to be very careful with this pulley, because thank you Mopar for putting a plastic pulley on a power steering pump that you're going to eventually have to take off. So thanks for that. But anyways, the reason why we were replacing this is, look at all that play in that shaft. See that? And the seal is leaking right here. So new pump goes on. Now what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to take this line off right here, this guy, which is a 16 millimeter wrench size. And then we're going to want to take this hose off here. But I like to take this one off first, so while you're wrenching on it, you're not getting full of ATF. And make sure you put a pan underneath it, because it's going to leak. Sometimes you got to heat these up a little bit, these guys up a little bit, so this line goes in or comes off a little easier. I like to use a crow's foot with a 1-inch extension. I seem to work pretty good because you get a little extra leverage. Sometimes you got to work them back and forth a little bit. It would also help if you sprayed them up a little bit the night before, but I don't have that that kind of time or whatever. But yeah, see if you can wrench it off, and there you go. Mine came off nice and easy. There's a nice little O-ring in there. Make sure that stays on there. And actually, you might get a new one with the pump. If you get a new one, put the new one on. If not, hope that it seals up. And now what you're going to want to do is you want to take this clamp off, just a spring clamp, just compress it, pull it down the hose, and yank the hose off. And do it quick, otherwise you're going to get full of fluid. Another thing that works really good for this is these cable clamp guys, where you can just put it on there and it'll grab the clamp for you. It makes things a hell of a lot easier. Something to think about. And you got 3 long bolts, and there she is. Nice and easy. Sits like that. Now we can put the new one in. Now we grab our new one. I like to loosen up this plug on the bottom just so it's finger tight. And then, nothing special there. Slap her back on, put the 3 bolts in, and then I'll show you what's next. Now that we got that all put back together, what you're going to want to do is lube the shit out of this shaft here, because it'll make your life a hell of a lot easier. You never have enough lube on there. And you're going to want to do the same thing to the pulley. Put some lube inside the hole. Make your life easier. And then to put that pulley on, you're going to take a guy that looks like this, and it's going to thread inside the shaft. But of course I don't have the right one, because this is a GM one. So I'm going to show you a backwoods mechanic trick that I've learned. How to put this pulley on without a puller. To put these on without a puller, you're going to want to take a carriage bolt, make sure this is the right thread, and make sure you can thread it in all the way. And you're just going to stack this like this, put it through, and use the nut that you put on here to thread it down. And the carriage bolt has a lip there. You can put a wrench on to hold it. Make sure this is threaded as far as it can go in, so you don't pull the threads out of that pump. Otherwise, then you're fucked and you gotta get a different pump. Alright. Now I got it all up on there. You just grab that, and this is going to be hard to show you. I need both hands on here. But anyways, I think you can get the gist of it. Just keep going, and it pushing that right onto the shaft. And then every once in a while you might have to back this nut off and see if you can get this a little deeper, because the first little bit is kind of hard unless you got a really long bolt, which would actually help, but since it's metric, that's all I had to work with. And when you're putting this line on, there's this little O-ring right here. They give you a new one. Make sure you put that on, otherwise you're going to have problems. Now we can top off the oil. And put the shroud in. Now to put the fan in, you kind of got to reach between the shroud and here. It's kind of a pain to get this this fan started, but then you can just spin it on. And then once you got it started, you can put your shroud in these clips down here, one on each side, and then you can put your 2 bolts on each side, and then you can finish putting the fan on. I'm gonna lock it down. You just take that same thing, give it a couple hits, and you're good. Now we can put the coolant tank in here and put those 2 bolts in, and then we can top her off with some coolant and power steering fluid. Then you're gonna want to turn the wheels until it stops squealing. Get all the air out, turn it back and forth about 30 times, and then you're all good to go. Check the fluid, top it off, and you should be good. If you found this video helpful, give it a big thumbs up. And if you got any suggestions for any other videos that you'd like me to make, leave that in the comment below.